construction. And we've got one of the fastest construction technologies that we have devised throughout the years. I can make a house in as fast as 8 days. And then you've got housing finance. Okay, we've developed in-house financing that has a 2% down payment, that has the lowest interest terms in the industry, and the longest 25-year terms compared to our competitors in-house finance. And lastly, and most important for me, is that we have a proactive and comprehensive credit and collection program.
Okay. Earlier on, you showed how margins were, you have a net margin of 40%. So is this common for low-cost property developers, or is that also an edge?
I think what's common in the industry would be the average of about 30. And then if you're good at really averaging your costs down and having economies of scale, then you can now have higher margins. One of the things about our construction methodology is that we use precast. And the nice thing about precast is that it lends itself to economies of scale. One of the things about economies of scale is that you're able to comprehensively and regularly determine the exact quantities, thereby minimizing losses. Because you have economies of scale, I can now go direct to manufacturers and promise them my inventory, and therefore I get lower prices than other competitors who would actually go to maybe wholesalers, dealers, or retailers.
Okay, can we go to the next question, please? Okay, what's your take on the supposed property oversupply issue?
Meron ba?
Well, we'd like to see your
property oversupply. Okay, as I said, it cannot be denied anymore that this country is growing. And what that means is that the businesses are earning, and therefore the businesses are growing, and therefore they're hiring more people who's going to have more paychecks. And then all of this is now going to be used for consumption. Now, the business sector knows this, and therefore the inventory for housing, okay, it has been going up. But has it been going up to a good level? As I said, there's a 4 million backlog in affordable housing. This is a HUDCC and NEDA figure. If you talk to the chairman of the Congress Committee on Housing and the Senate Committee on Housing, their estimate is actually much higher. And so, is there an oversupply? I guess not, because our problem now in the industry is how to encourage developers to actually produce more, so that the housing backlog will now be lower.
Yeah, I guess the question is, are you actually experiencing any slowdown in demand that would result from, say, an oversupply or a downward pressure in price?
One of the things about housing as a product is that it's really geographically limited, di ba? Kasi if I have a project in Cebu, I do not expect people from Metro Manila to actually buy my product. And so it's geographically centered. So for as long as there is a housing backlog in that area or in that region or in that city, then the business metrics are laid out for you. Diba? How you actually market your product, how you get the customers in through pricing, location, promotion, is already part of your business model. And so the question is, am I experiencing a slowdown in sales? No, actually. And one of the things is that Dega Homes has become an accepted brand in the places where we are. In fact, we're trying to expand to like General Santos City as well, because we think that there's already enough density of people to warrant a mass housing project.
Okay, next question, please. Okay, so it seems that your buyers are dependent on affordable financing for purchasing homes. Do you think there's a threat that funding from Pag-ibig will dry up and that requirements will become stricter, especially come 2016 with the changing administration?
Is there a threat that funding from Pag-ibig will dry up? No, because all of us who are working are contributing X amount of pesos every month to Pag-ibig Fund. In fact, it's got the cheapest source of funds for housing, Pag-ibig. That is contributions from members, and the cost is zero. And so no, in fact, the problem of Pag-ibig is this. They've been budgeting about 50 billion pesos every year. The closest that they have gotten to is 46. And so they need to spur more and more, encourage more and more developers like me to go back to Pag-ibig Fund. Will it become stricter, especially with the expected change in the administration? My personal take in this is that going towards 2016, you will see a more Pag-ibig member-friendly and a more developer-friendly policy of Pag-ibig Fund. Now, after that, I think after that, we will have more issues to worry about than just Pag-ibig Fund, because the entire government bureaucracy after 2016 has changed. But you know, I've been a housing developer for more than 20 years. I've been through so many Pag-ibig presidents. I've been through so many Republic of the Philippines presidents. And sometimes I feel na, you know, the more you change something, the more it kind of remains the same.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, I think it's 2% down payment. And then how long does it take for Pag-ibig to release the funding? Or I guess the worry is these people, they cannot afford to be renting and waiting. You know, they're not like the high end, they can wait for a long time.
That's right. And that's why I only have a 2% down payment, which is like innovative in the entire industry. And I've also done nothing this year. But talk to developers, go to developers forums and tell them, you know, you should try this, right? And then, why 2%? Because to us, 2% means nothing, di ba? That's probably just one trade, okay, in the stock, di ba? One buy, one sell, okay? But, you know, to the market that we're trying to serve, 2% is equivalent to 1 month's salary. So, can you imagine if I ask you now to invest in an asset, and the requirement I'm telling you is give me your 1 month salary, then you will see that it's not about the amount. It is about the value that one attaches to the 2% that makes all the difference.
How long does it take for Pag-ibig to release the funds?
Okay, prior to 2011, it was 7 days. Kasi there was this program that was that grew Pag-ibig in the year 2000 from 5 billion to 50 billion by the end of 2010. And then the administration changed. And so, at that time, it was 7 days takeout. So that's why we developed our technology to take advantage of that 7-day cash conversion cycle that Pag-ibig was giving. That's why we have a technology that can build as fast as 8. So binigyan ko na ng 1 more day grace period yung Pag-ibig. And then after that, it became 6 months. And then we say, 6 months, di ba? We might as well close. Parang di ba? Sell in May, then that's it for the day. Parang ganon, di ba? But we said, we will either do Pag-ibig or do in-house finance. And so that's what we did. Today, I'm going back to Pag-ibig. I am pledging 5 billion of my income of my guidance for 2015. 50% I'm going back to Pag-ibig. Because now I can see they have now decreased the processing time to 5 weeks. And then I feel that going to 2016, they're going to reduce it even further.
Okay, that's good news. At least we have best case 7 days, worst case 6 months.
6 months.
It's gonna go back to 6 months.
And then now, because I have my in-house financing, diba? If Pag-ibig slows down, then I can just move my buyers towards my financing. If something happens in the BSP or in the banking sector, making it difficult there, then I can now move my clients to Pag-ibig Fund, diba? And so, I think that House is only the developer I know who has strong relationships with both housing finance sectors, the government through Pag-ibig, and the banking sector through our accredited banking partners.
Okay, next question please. Okay, related to sa pinag-usapan natin, what's the company's views about the central bank's move to limit bank sector lending to the real estate sector? Are you affected by this?
Well, the banks that we are partners with keep on reassuring us that we have nothing to worry about. What they're saying is that interest rates are still going to be stable as far as we're concerned, etc. So please don't look for other banks. Parang ganun yung message. But in spite of that, yes, we are concerned about the BSP moves, and that is why for 2015 we have decided to do a 5 billion corporate bond offering that will stabilize our interest rate borrowings. This is a 5 billion corporate bond with a green shoe or an over-allotment of another 4. And so when we're able to do that, then I can say that the finances of 8990 House will become stable and not subject to central banks move towards lending to the private sector.
When your buyers say buy a house from you and then it goes to bank financing, is it considered like in-house financing, or do the banks lend directly to your buyers?
Yes, what our arrangements with the bank is this. I can now get my buyers under my own in-house finance, and then they will do either of two things. They will either extend us a bridge financing loan, or they have the option to purchase our receivables. And then we have a small portion, but it's really very small, that my buyers go direct to the banks. And that's really one of the reasons why I think we have a mass housing backlog, because the banking sector is now only recently becoming more open to providing banking services and housing loans to this sector. This sector has long been ignored. And so the housing finance partner of our sector is really the Provident Fund. But because Provident Fund became strict after 2011, the only choice we had to continue building units and providing these units to our buyers is to go in-house finance. So but the signals of the banking sector to me are getting better every day. They're now open to partnering with us to extend direct financing to our buyers. They're becoming more comfortable with the fact that the market for mass housing is actually a bankable market. It's not a poor market. And then you notice that in business, there's already a lot of products that actually are now catering to this market segment. And this market segment, which I call the middle class, lower middle class segment, is fast becoming the backbone of our economy.
Yeah, just a last question related to that. I guess the banks are a bit concerned about non-performing assets. So can you share with us your experience as to the non-performing assets or NPL levels that you've experienced with these buyers?
Okay, my NPL, or rather my rate of default, is 5%. Okay, so I have a 95% collection efficiency. And I will give you an interesting insight. Okay, when we do the demographics of our defaulting buyers, we found it interesting that the higher the income of our buyer, the greater the chance that he will default.
Why is that?
Diba? Okay, baka naman mali lang yung accounting department. Check nyo nga ulit yan. No, but then when we study the data, it is this. Number one, we have fully vetted our client. I mean, it passes through an affordability and credit evaluation structure, which is really more strict. Why? Because I'm carrying the liability and risk. I'm not going to risk getting buyers that are, kind of shaky in terms of affordability. So what I'm just saying is this. When you become a buyer of house, I've already checked you out. You can pay this. Okay? And so when we look at B1, when we look at defaulting, I notice that, I don't know if it's Filipino culture or maybe human nature, but as I said, because there are now disposable incomes of everybody across the social pyramid, I guess if you have a little more money in your wallet, you may want to buy everything. Diba? And so our collection platform is actually geared towards making sure that the buyer always understands why it is important for him to invest in a property that is his primary asset. and that where his children are going to live, grow under this roof, and what the consequences are when suddenly you don't pay your monthly amortization and we have to cancel your account, and then where will you live? One of the things we always stress in our credit and collection platform is this, and this is what makes us different, is that it's a credit and collection platform, but its objective is not to collect. And then when I told this to my developer friends, they said, "What? Did you just contradict yourself, Jay?" Sabi ko, hindi. Kasi if the objective of the collection effort is to collect, then as my base grows, my customer base grows, then my collection agents will actually grow. But, diba, it's about behavior modification. If you're able to change the behavior of your buyers through seminars, education programs, penalties, benefits, and it's a comprehensive way, then they will now begin to understand not only what they have to pay, but why they have to pay. And once they understand why they have to pay, how many collection people do I need? 0. And so that's why we are, 95% collection efficiency. And that is a gauge of how effective our behavior modification policies have actually become implemented.
Okay, that's all the time we have for Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, April. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Atencio.